So that's why we're going to be doing that stepping up movement. All will become all will make sense hopefully later on. So lying on our backs, we're going to do a few simple twisty things in a moment, because it's often one of the best places to start to get our rib cage moving, which is what we're really doing when we're doing twisting movements. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. And feel that your head is heavy. Let the weight of your head settle onto the ground as you let your head ease to the right and to the left. And so we're starting off, as we roll our head, or we let our head roll to the right and to the left, we're starting off by introducing a rotation movement into the neck, into the vertebrae, the cervical vertebrae. So as you do this a couple more times, just check how that feels today in your neck. And as usual, any of these little things we do to start with, it's very important that we're not pushing anything. We're just very much working in our own time, our own pace. Sorry, Sheila's trying to get in. She hasn't got the link. I'm just going to send it to her. And then what I'd like you to do, well, I'm just resending the link to Sheila, is settle your head down. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And again, go easy with this. See how it feels across the back of your pelvis. That's it, letting your knees tilt. Good, good. Hopefully Sheila will be able to join us in a moment. Good, and then you're going to just settle down your legs. You can keep your knees bent, or if it's comfortable, it might be a good idea to lengthen your legs out on the floor. And then you're going to take your arms up and touch your hands in prayer pose. That's it. So you're making a triangle with your arms. So touch your hands in prayer pose, sort of over your chest. And then that's it. Start to let your arms rock to the right and to the left. Very nice. Hi, Sheila. So yes, sorry, I think I've got you muted. So if you want to unmute yourselves for a moment, you can do. But otherwise, we're lying on our backs. And I think, yes, I think you might have tried to join the Friday instead. I don't know what happened. One of those Zoom things. Anyway, so Sheila, we were doing a few twisty things on our back. We're doing this one where we're rocking our arms in a triangle to the right and to the left. So quite familiar things. Good. And then let your arms settle down. Let your arms rest on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to revisit bending your knees, standing your feet on the floor, letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So come back to that movement. And so, Sheila, we're doing some twisty movements today. And don't worry, you've not missed out on a huge amount. I just wanted to do a little bit of lying down, but not too much, as I don't want people to get cold. Okay, so just a couple more times. Let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then pause in the centre and bring your hands onto the front of your body. Sheila, you could do a little bit of rocking with your arms in that triangle with your hands in prayer pose if you wanted to. The rest of you, just bring your hands onto the front of your body and gather your awareness into your breathing. So just see how it feels for a couple of breaths, two or three breaths, to just feel the movement of your breath through your body. And so one of the reasons we do these rotation movements, these twisting movements, is they help to free up our rib cage a little bit, to release tension around the ribs. And it often helps our breathing to feel a little bit easier. So what I'd like you to do now is then to fold your knees into your chest. Nigel, if you prefer, you could lengthen your legs out on the floor. So we're going to fold our knees into our chest and then take our legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. But yes, if anyone else prefers lengthening their legs out on the floor, you can do. And it's quite helpful when you are upside down. We've got those cool leggings on today, Rosie. They're so nice. It's quite helpful when you're in that position when you've got your legs up and your arms up, because we're going to be, in a moment, coming over onto hands and knees. And it's sort of like you're just going to turn yourself over and be the other way up. So when you've done that little bit of shaking out, come over onto hands and knees. And yes, obviously you don't just flip yourself over. It takes a little bit of time to settle down. So we're going to come onto hands and knees, and in a moment, once you're settled, we're going to do some cat movements and some tail wagging movements. And hopefully the little rotation movements we did on our back have helped to release us a little bit around the pelvis. So start with your cat movements. See how it feels to round your back to the ceiling, to dip your spine to the floor. And just sort of keep them easy and comfortable. Letting your breath flow as it wants to, and just particularly noticing how does it feel. So when you round your back to the ceiling, how does it feel sort of in your lower back? When you dip your spine down to the floor, how does it feel? And as much as possible, use these movements to help ease into your body on this not particularly warm Monday morning. And whenever you want to, you can then move on to a little bit of some tail wagging movements. So perhaps pause in the centre, you're neither rounding up nor dipping down. And then you're starting to imagine you have a tail and you're wagging your tail or swishing your tail. And feeling your pelvis move to the right and to the left. And also what perhaps you're feeling is one side of the body lengthening. So in a way, perhaps it's more that your pelvis moves towards one shoulder and then the other. When you've done a bit of tail wagging, you're going to come back to a little bit more cat and see again, how does it feel? So if the lower back was feeling a little bit stiff, perhaps when we come back to cat, it might feel that it's easing a little bit. I'd like you to, because we're going to do a couple of dog poses, and so I think you might just want to take your weight off your hands and your wrists for a moment. So you could round your back to the ceiling and fold your hips back over your heels and come into child or kneeling if you prefer. And just have a couple of breaths where you're letting your shoulders and your hands and your wrists soften and relax. So what we're going to do is a couple of dog poses, and the second dog pose we'll use to take us up into standing. So whenever you're ready, you might want to give your hands a little shake out, either in kneeling, up kneeling, or sitting down kneeling. And then bring your hands onto the floor. And so we'll see how dog pose feels today. So we can tuck our toes under on hands and knees. Right, do a little bit of rocking forwards and back with the toes tucked under. And then whenever you're ready, as you exhale, rocking your hips back, picking your knees up off the floor, coming up into dog pose. And yeah, a little bit of lengthening out. Good. Lovely. So remember all those things we can do, but most of them involve bending the knees. Breathing, settling. And remember you're doing 2 dog poses. So just, yeah. If this first one feels a little bit stiff or not quite right, coming down in between your dogs, you can sit back in kneeling, you can come into child pose. And then our 3rd dog pose will take us up into standing. So again, particularly if your shoulders felt stiff in that last dog pose, you can take your hands a bit wider apart on the floor, have really big hand prints, tuck your toes under, exhale, rock your hips back and then up into dog pose. Bending one knee, bending both knees. And again, spend some time in this 2nd dog pose. That looks good, lovely. So from this dog pose, you're going to, whenever you want to, you're going to start to walk your hands in towards your feet. So you come into a forward bend. And when you arrive in your forward bend, depending how your lower back feels, you may feel you want to bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs. If your back needs a little bit more support at this point, letting your head go. Some of you might be releasing your arms to the floor. Maybe have another cycle or 2 of breath in your dog pose, and then you're going to roll up into standing as you exhale. As you exhale, sinking into your heels, walk your hands up the front of your legs if you need to support your back, and arriving up in standing. Good. So we're just going to have a moment to see if we can sort of settle and feel ourselves, particularly our breathing in standing. So you could bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your chest. And just close your eyes if that's okay, or you can keep your eyes open, whichever you prefer. And you see with the contact of your hands on the front of your body, can that help you settle a little bit in standing? Can it help you connect with your breathing? See if you can feel a breath come in, feel a breath leave you. So one of the things we're going to explore today in some of the standing postures is sort of movement, and then also having our focus on our breath. So let's let that go for a moment. Let's just come to our feet. So the first thing I'd like you to do is bring one foot forwards a little bit and start to tap your foot on the floor. So this is just really helping us to get our awareness down to our feet. You could then let your foot tap a little bit to the right and to the left. Yes, it's probably helpful to look at the feet as well. Don't do too much, because otherwise the front of the ankle can get a little bit tense. And then bring that foot back. For a moment, just close your eyes and see how the 2 feet feel on the floor. And so sometimes I find that when I've tapped one foot, that foot feels like it's almost deeper in the floor. And then bring the other foot forwards and do the same thing. So tapping the front of your foot on the floor, so your heel stays down. You're tapping that front portion of your foot. You can turn the foot in and out a little bit. And then bring both feet back and settle the feet down for a moment. Then we're going to do this sort of opposite movement where we let our heels come up and then we're dropping our heels together, dropping the heels down. So it does this sort of slightly juddering movement through the body. So you could do it very sort of small and quick, or you could do sort of bigger movement. So see if you can find a movement that doesn't feel awful in this. So if you're doing something you think, oh, I really don't like this, can you maybe do it much smaller and lighter, or just the occasional big one? And then let that go. And again, just close your eyes for a moment and see how it feels to drop your attention down into your feet. And then one more little thing. Bend your knees and see if you can give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So you're trying to imagine that you're almost shaking your pelvis off the bottom of your spine. And again, this can just feel nice for the lower back. So the knees are bent. You're trying to wiggle your pelvis a little bit from side to side. It's a bit like we do when we lie on our bellies and we wiggle our pelvis. And then let your knees straighten but not lock. And bring your hands into prayer pose. So we're just going to do sort of hopefully quite a quiet little balance. And with our intention is just really feeling the feet on the floor. So hands in prayer pose. You could close your eyes and do a little bit of shifting your weight from side to side and just decide which foot you'd like to stand on first. And once you've decided, open your eyes and you're going to shift your weight onto that foot. Come up onto the ball of your other foot. And then all you're going to do is bring your foot to stand on your other foot. And if you start to feel a bit unsteady, you can just bring your toes back onto the floor next to your foot again. And see how it feels to settle down with one foot standing on the front of the other foot. We've got our hands in prayer pose. We're just encouraging our footprint on the ground to settle down, but it's going to be shifting about a little bit, adjusting to help steady our body above it. So it's fine if there's some little wobbles. See if you can have another breath or two here. Good. Come down, have a little shake out of arms and legs, and we'll try the same thing on the other side. So both feet on the floor, bring the hands into prayer pose. So we start with this feeling of gathering our awareness into our center, thumbs resting on the breastbone. And once we've gathered the hands, then we start to shift our weight onto the foot we're going to stand on, the other foot. Come up onto the ball of the foot we just stood on, and then bring that foot to stand on the other foot. And then we're just letting the shoulders soften. We're settling down through our standing foot. Seeing if we can feel the movement of our breath within us. We have a little wobble, it's fine. We might need to touch our toes onto the ground, that's fine too. Well done, really good. Come down and have a little shake out. I'd like us to do a couple of forward bends, and then we're going to come back to thinking about some twisting movements. So as you go into this forward bend, you're going to bring your awareness into the back of your body, which is what we do quite often. But again, start with the head. So as you go forwards, be aware of the back of your head, and then let your awareness travel into the back of your neck, and then your upper back, and then down to the lower back and the back of your pelvis. And again, bending your knees as much as you like, resting your elbows on your thighs. And your awareness then can start to travel down through the backs of your legs. Just this sense of the back of yourself in a forward bend. Once you're down in the forward bend, either letting your arms hang or resting your elbows on the thighs, have a big exhalation. And then let a breath come in. As you roll back up into standing, again, have that awareness of the back of yourself. So the back of your legs, the back of your pelvis, your lower back, all the way up to your upper back, back of your neck, back of your head, all the way back into standing. And then this time as we go forwards, you're going to have your awareness in the front of your body. So starting with your face and thinking about your face softening as you fold forwards. So rolling forwards again, thinking about your face softening, the front of your throat, the front of your chest maybe sort of folds in a little bit, down into the belly, because the belly folds back and empty a little bit as we go forwards. And that gap between our chest and our thighs closes. Again, all the way down, have a big exhalation. And then as you roll back up, again, awareness through the front of your body. So down through the front of your legs, your thighs, front of the pelvis. As you roll up, feel how the front of your chest opens. Your head coming to stand on the top. Lovely. Very nice. We'll come back to that a little bit later, but we're now going to come on to thinking about rotation movements. So first of all, come to this one where we're just doing this very easy swinging twist where the whole of our body is moving. So we're not here trying to just move our ribs or trying to not move our ribs and move our lower part of our body. We're just letting everything come along. But that doesn't mean that the ribs are not moving. It just means perhaps they're not moving quite so much. So a few more times, swinging your arms from side to side. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do now is that stepping up movement. So ideally, when you step your leg up, your knee is coming sort of to a right angle. So that I can stay where you can see me, I'm going to use this poof, but it's a little bit low. So ideally, you've got something a bit higher than this and a bit less squishy. So a chair is good, a bed is good, a sofa's good. And so you start with your feet a little distance apart, and you step one foot up onto your surface. Sheila, you missed out. Have you got something you can step up onto? So should be something in up in your attic room. So we've stepped up onto our surface. We want to feel steady, so there needs to be this sideways distance. Yeah, you've not got your feet one in front of the other. And then what we do here is we turn towards our front leg. And we're not moving below the waist. And that stepped up leg sort of stops, hopefully stops our pelvis moving. So we're turning our ribs and our shoulders. Your back arm can hang, or you could bring your hand onto the back of your pelvis. This front hand comes onto that front thigh. And then we try to really let the shoulders drop. Good. So you're going to do this twice on each side. So come into the twist. And then that's it. Untwist and try again. So remember, you're turning towards that front leg and you're trying to stay very, very steady below the waist. It's getting rather hot here, so I'll turn it off. So again, try the same side. So using your out breath, turning towards that leg that stepped up, trying to give away the shoulders. Back shoulder particularly, letting that shoulder drop, the arm can hang, or the hand can be on the back of your pelvis. And just feeling how you're wide across the front of your chest, and you're maybe feeling this movement down into your ribs. Good. And then come down and have a little shake out, and we'll try going the other way and see how that feels. So sometimes we do this in kneeling, but I think it's easier to be steady when we've got our feet on the floor and on a steady surface. So you step the other foot up, and then you're just thinking, okay, I'm not moving below the waist. I'm turning towards this front leg. That leg is staying where it is. My ribs, my shoulders, my head, my arms are turning. I'm also trying to keep my shoulders relaxed, particularly the back shoulder likes to lift up a bit. Good. Good. And then you can untwist, come back. Linda, I would step your foot a bit further onto that chair, actually. Yeah, so I'd come a bit nearer to your chair. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah, maybe get rid of the cushion, actually. That's it. Because I just, in a way, you want to feel that knee you're turning towards, the heel is under the knee. So you can try one more time, turning towards that leg. Good. And so the idea in this is that we just, yeah, hopefully can feel quite steady from the waist down. Okay, so untwist. We're not going to be using our surfaces anymore, so you can get rid of those. But we are going to be doing some more rotations. So come back onto your mat, and you're going to step. Let's step the right foot forwards. So we're in this walking position. So again, remember, you've got your sideways distance, and you stepped forwards, and then you're going to rock your weight forwards and back. So we're going for this little walk, but we're not going anywhere. Okay. And then from here, let both feet settle down. Both knees are straight but not locked. And then can we sort of swing our arms here? But again, we're not really moving much below the waist. So we're trying to keep quite steady from the pelvis down. We're just giving our arms a little bit of a swing from side to side, just to try and let them feel loose and free. And then pause in the middle, and we're going to fold forwards. So that's as much as a twist as we're doing for the moment. So you're going to fold forwards, letting your front knee bend, and then folding forwards, releasing your arms to the ground, letting your head go, seeing how that feels. And how steady can you feel? Good. Yes, it's quite nice to let the head hang. Good, good. And just might be that your chest comes close to your thigh. Lovely. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Sink down into your footprints. Come back up into standing. Have a little shake out. Come back, 2 feet being side to side. And then step your left foot forwards. And start off with this little bit of rocking forwards and back. Good. So we're just thinking here about how can we settle down through our feet. When we stop rocking, how can we then feel very steady from the pelvis down? Can we swing our arms and find some lightness in the upper body? So this idea that the waist here, we're dropping the pelvis, we can swing the arms a little bit and feel some sort of sense of lightness and being free. And then again, we'll pause in the middle and we'll fold forwards. So letting the front knee bend, you can bring your hands, your elbows onto that front leg, and then you can release your arms down to the floor. Good. And at this point, it's sometimes helpful for the next things we're doing. If your fingers don't come all the way to the floor, you might find that it would be helpful to have a book for the next thing we're doing. But most of you, it looks like your fingers are nearly there, and they don't have to touch the floor. So let a breath come in. Exhale, sink into your heels. Come back up into standing. Have a little shake out. So we're going to take this stepped forward position now into a twist, which will be familiar to you. We're going to do it twice on each side with a different focus. So the first time, we're just really going to focus on the movement. So you stepped your right foot forwards again. And you're going to be bending your front knee and folding forwards to this place here. So your hands or your forearms are resting on your front leg. And we're trying to let the spine lengthen and flatten at this point. So rather than rounding our back, we're trying to feel, is our spine long and flat, so that we can then turn. So if you've got your right foot stepped forwards, then bring your left hand onto the back of your pelvis. And again, we're trying to turn. We're turning towards the left, but it's just the ribs and the shoulders, not the legs. Could we release the right arm to the floor? Your fingertips might touch your ankle or the floor. And your left arm could go up to the ceiling, but it needs to sort of be relaxed and soft. So if it's not good for your shoulder, you don't need to take that arm up. Good. And we're not staying here long. We're going to stay here a bit longer in a moment. So from here again, I'd like you then to just untwist and flop forwards over your front leg. Let your head go. Let your arms go. Let a breath come in. And then sink into your footprints, come back up into standing. Good. So at this point, we're just really thinking about coming into this as a series of movements. So let's try the other side. So back in standing, step your left foot forwards now. So we've got our back leg straight, we've got our front knee bent, and then we fold forwards and we can take a bit of weight into that front leg, but we still want to feel very well anchored in the back heel. Might be your forearm on that thigh, it might be your hand. Right hand on the back of our pelvis. Can we start to turn the ribs and the shoulders to the right? To the right, good. You could release your left hand towards the ground. Can that left arm hang, or could your fingers come on your ankle? Or to the floor? That's when you might need a book if you wanted to have your fingers on the floor and they don't quite reach. How does it feel if you take your right arm up towards the ceiling? Can it feel relaxed? Does your palm face forwards? Can you still wiggle your fingers? Good. And then let a breath come in and untwist and flop forwards. Let your head go. Let a breath come in, and as you exhale down into your heels, back up into standing. Have a little shake out. We're going to do a forward bend, just to sort of not. That's what I was going to do. Actually, just come back into standing. Just sort of do this one for the moment. Yeah, just swing everything. Yeah, feel the whole of your body moving. Something easy, which involves less mental focus. Good. We're then just going to do a quiet forward bend with our feet side by side, and then we're going to try that movement again, but with a different focus, our focus on our breathing. So come back to feet being side to side, and without too much fuss and bother, just rolling down into your forward bend. If you like, you could do that movement where you your weeping willow movement, where you trail your fingertips around around the fronts of your feet. Just something that feels quite soft and free and easy in your body and also in your mind. Good. Yeah, whatever you feel drawn to do. Very nice. And then in your own time, let a breath come in as you exhale, sink down into your heels, roll back up into standing. Have a little shake out if you like. So we're going to come back to that twist we just did, but our focus is going to be on our breathing and trying to keep this sort of steady, even breath as we move through it. So feet side to start with. And then step your right foot forwards. So at this point, you're going to bend your front knee, your back leg is straight. Just gather your attention into your breathing. See if you can feel the movement of your breath in your body. Letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And then as you fold forwards, you're going to fold forwards and come to settle in this sort of forward bend where we're thinking about the spine lengthening out. And again, connecting with your breathing. You might have kept that steady flow, you might need to reconnect. Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. And then in your own time, starting to move into the twist. And however you want to have your arms, you can do that. And once you're in a place that you feel sort of happy to settle and breathe in, again, settle with the breathing. So your top arm could be on the back of your pelvis, it could be up towards the ceiling. But gather your awareness into your breathing, feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. As we exhale, we can go down into our footprints more, we can release tension. As we breathe in, we can feel the body expanding, particularly in the upper part of the chest. And on an exhalation, you sink down into your footprints and you come back up. Well done. And have a little shake out. And then we'll try the same thing on the other side. So in an ideal world, we keep this sort of steady contact with our breathing the whole way through. So feet side by side, step the left foot forwards. But it doesn't always happen. If we bump up against something that's a bit tight, something that's a bit tricky, we sometimes lose that sort of steady thread of our breathing. So in standing with your front knee bent, your back leg straight, gather your awareness into your breathing. Feeling the breath coming in, the breath leaving you. And see if you can keep that steady awareness of your breathing as you fold forwards. Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. And as you move into the twist. And it might be that as you move and settle, you then have to refocus on your breathing. Softening and releasing of tension as we exhale. And the feeling of expansion, particularly in the upper part of the chest when we're in a twist. See if you can have another breath or two wherever you are. And then coming out as you exhale down into your footprints. Coming back up. Good, very nice. So it's really lovely and quiet. So we're going to come to the backs of our mat. We're going to do a couple of forward bends. The second one will take us down through dog pose and then down into child. And we're going to come back to that focus of our awareness in the front and the back of our body. So as you go into your first forward bend, you're going to have your awareness in the back of your body again. So as you roll forwards, the awareness in the back of the head, the back of the neck, through the upper spine, the lower back, the pelvis, the backs of the legs. And having a couple of breaths in your forward bend and just that sensing into the back of your body and bending your knees as much as you like. So obviously one of the things we feel in the back of our body is the hamstrings, the backs of the legs. The further into the forward bend we go. And we always have the option of bending the knees to ease off if the hamstring stretch feels very intense. Let a breath come in, and as you exhale, roll back up. And again with this awareness through the back of your body. Settling back in standing, and then this forward bend will have our awareness in the front of our body, and then we will go on into dog pose. So as you go forwards this time, your awareness in your face, in the front of the neck, the throat, in the chest, and feeling how the chest sort of moves back a little bit and closes in, and the belly maybe moves back and empties as we go into that forward bend. And how does it feel to have our awareness in the front of the body in the forward bend? Can we keep that feeling that the front of the body is softening back? As the distance closes between our chest and our thighs, can it still feel that it's emptying rather than getting congested? Emptying particularly as we exhale. And then when you're ready, walking your hands forwards into dog pose. And it's really up to you here how much time you spend in dog and when you want to fold down into child. Lovely. Very nice. And when you fold down, it could be child pose, it could be kneeling, it could be lying on your belly if you prefer. So we're going to carry on with some twisting movements on hands and knees and then coming down to the floor a little bit more. So on hands and knees, we can do these nice thread the needle twists. And Rosie, thank you, because you've made me think about them as more of a movement. So in these ones, we're going to be taking the arm up and then taking the arm underneath. And we're going to do this 3 times and then stay in this thread the needle. So on hands and knees, I'm moving my right arm and I'm sort of following my hand with my gaze. And then the arm goes underneath and I'm bending my left elbow. And I'm going to repeat that 3 times and then stay in the little twist in the thread the needle on the 3rd time. So moving in and out. And when you come into the twist on the 3rd time and you stay there, you're breathing and focus. Yes, so once you're staying there, we move from the sort of movement to the breath. Good. Very nice. Good. Lovely. And when you've stayed there for a few breaths, you can then try the same thing on the other side. And certainly for me, as I do this one, as I take my arm out to the side, I just want to keep it quite sort of soft and relaxed and not try to take it too high. I'm just contrasting this movement of the arm sweeping up and then underneath. And it might be quite nice that when the arm comes out to the side, it's also coming forwards a little bit. That might help you find a little bit more movement. And then we stay for a few breaths in the twist. And when you're staying in the twist, your right elbow, this is the supporting arm, that elbow bends. Good. Yes, and you can absolutely do that, Rosie. You can, if you like, you can take your other hand onto the back of you can take that supporting arm onto the back of your pelvis. That's it, Linda. Yeah, if you want to do that one, that's quite nice for the top shoulder. Good. Okay. And then coming out of these ones, I always feel I need to do something that just sort of lengthens me out. So what I'd like us to do is, on hands and knees, come into a plank pose. And when plank pose gets too much, you can rock your hips back over your heels into dog pose and then fold down into child. So come towards the front of your mat. I was just thinking our plank pose is good for us in lots of levels, keeping that feeling of a bit of strength, the abdominals. So into a long plank pose. We know when we're in plank, we feel our abdominals kick in to stop our pelvis sagging down to the floor, stretching our heels away from us. And then whenever you think, okay, I've really had enough of plank pose, I want to ease off a bit, then send your pelvis back and up into dog. And it's going to be quite a long dog, so you could always walk your feet in a little bit. And then sometimes you find a dog pose that feels rather lovely. And whenever you've had enough on your hands, all looks rather good, then fold down into child pose or into kneeling. And in fact, this time from your child pose, you're then going to slither forwards onto your belly and settle down onto your belly. And as I mentioned earlier, give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. So we're not staying long on our bellies, we're just visiting lying on the belly as a place that's useful to have in our repertoire. Give the pelvis a bit of a wiggle. Oh, very nice to see Zelda there, Linda. My girls are still talking about your cats a lot. Good. So just another breath or two on your belly. If you like to do the one where you bend your knees, you orientate the soles of your feet towards the ceiling, you tilt your lower legs from side to side, you could do that a few times. Very nice. I see everyone's feet waving from side to side. And then in your own time, from lying on your belly, you're going to roll over, disturbing yourself as little as possible. Roll over onto your back. And it's not quite time to go to sleep, but you're going to just settle on your back and you're going to let your head roll from side to side. So come back to that movement we did towards the beginning of class, letting the head ease to the right and to the left. And I'd also like you to do the movement we did at the beginning of class, which is with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, to tilt your knees from side to side. And see how that feels. Good, pleased to see, pleased to see Pippin as well now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come onto our side and we're going to do a twist on our side. So what I suggest is if you wanted to put on socks, you're very welcome to do so at this point. And when you settle on your side, you might like to have a cushion under the side of your head. So on one side, doesn't matter which, with your knees bent. So we come into this one, where we're on our side, we maybe have a cushion under the side of our head. Our knees are bent at a right angle to our body. And our arms are just sort of relaxed on the floor in front of us. So, and if you have got cushions, it's quite helpful to have a cushion under your head to start with, because then you might want to put it between your knees later on. So settle on your side and just have your arms relaxed. So your elbows are bent and the arms are soft. So it's a bit like you're going to go to sleep here, but not quite yet. Sheila, you could bring your feet, that's it, forwards a bit on the floor. That's good, yeah. And the knees a little higher maybe. That's it, wonderful. So we start this movement. So we start on the side of our head and we start to roll towards the back of our head and let our arms follow. So I just think I like to keep my arms quite relaxed in this. So we're moving, that's it, and exactly. So we can have that little experiment. What happens is we roll from the side of the head towards the back of the head. Where does that top arm go to? Where does the top shoulder get to in terms of coming towards the floor behind us? Now, do you feel that you can let your top leg move? So it might slide a bit on the bottom leg. And your top knee might also move up towards the ceiling a bit. So if you're trying to bring your top shoulder towards the floor behind you, your top knee might lift. And so it's quite nice in this one to roll in and out of it. But also if you want to stay in the twist, when your top shoulder's on the floor, you at that point might want to put your cushion, move it from under your head to between your knees. So exactly, Sheila. So this is really nice, I think, to stay in this twist, to let the top knee come up enough, to use a cushion under that knee, so that we can just let ourselves be open in the front of the chest, the arms resting on the floor either side, the legs heavy, and then just feeling the movement of the breath in our body. And again, there's that sense as we exhale that we let ourselves settle and soften. And as we breathe in, we feel perhaps the expansion in the upper part of the chest. And this is because when we're in a twist, our low ribs are actually moving quite a lot. So there's a bit less movement for the breath there. So it's nice to focus on this feeling of being very wide across the upper part of the chest, from shoulder to shoulder. So give yourself another couple of breaths there. And then before we move on to side two, just roll onto your back for a moment and have a couple of breaths on your back. That's nice. So coming onto the back, yes, however you want to be on your back for a breath or two. You might like to let your head roll a little bit from side to side. And then in your own time, you're going to roll over onto side two and just organize yourself again. So maybe having the cushion under the side of your head to start with, and with the knowledge that you can then whip it out and put it between your knees later on. And the important thing, when you're on your side, why you might want the cushion under your head, it's that bottom shoulder. If your bottom shoulder feels squashed and uncomfortable, that's when you really want to have something under the side of your head. So remember, your knees are at a right angle to your body, or even a little bit higher up. That's it. We start on the side of our head. How does it feel to start to roll towards the back of our head? How does it feel to let the arms follow in a very sort of soft, fluid movement? That's it. Very nice. And then remember that top leg can move. The top leg can slide a little bit forwards and back on the bottom leg. Yes, so very nice if you roll forwards and you roll to the side of your head again to let that top leg slide. Yes, we do. We do need quite a lot of space for this one. So good. And if you're trying to bring your back shoulder towards the floor, you might need to let your top knee lift away from the bottom knee, up towards the ceiling a bit. And you, at that point, if you're going to settle in the twist, then that's when your cushion can come out from under your head and go between your knees. And then again, can we settle? Can we let the arms rest on the floor? That's it. Good, Nigel. Lovely. So a place where we can let the shoulders settle on the floor, the arms can be heavy, we can feel wide across the front of the chest. We can feel the breath coming in, the breath leaving us. Good. So give yourself another couple of breaths here. So this is when we're in a twist, and I suppose it's passive and we're just being there and letting ourselves undo. So when you've had another breath or two or three, you're going to make your way onto your back. Settle down. We're going to do, maybe have your blanket up. I'm just going to do a couple of simple movements and then we're going to settle down just for a little bit of breathing. So the only things I was really going to say to do to finish were a little bit of tilting your knees from side to side. And Nigel, at that point, you might want to lengthen your legs out. And the rest of you, I was saying, you can also fold your knees in and take them up to the ceiling and shake them out. And then we'll just settle down. But I always like that opportunity to take my legs up to the ceiling. So yeah, a little bit of lying on your back with your knees bent, your feet standing on the floor, tilting your knees from side to side. And so when we come to this movement of the knees tilting from side to side, it's a rotation movement, but in this one, unlike a lot of what we've been doing today, the upper body is staying steady. We're tilting the pelvis and the legs, but it's still moving the ribs. Very nice. And so from there, if you would like to fold your knees into your chest and take your legs up to the ceiling, have a little shake out, you can, or you can lengthen your legs out on the floor. Once you've given your legs a little shake out, then you can lengthen your legs on the floor. Very nice. Nice feet to lengthen. Good. And make sure you're going to be warm enough. So we're just going to finish very simply bringing the hands. You don't have to bring the hands onto the front of your body, but it can be helpful in terms of connecting with the breathing, helping ourselves to settle. And that's how I'd like us to finish, with this gathering our attention into the movement of our breath in our body. And letting the breath be very free at the moment. So we're not trying to do anything to our breathing. We're just allowing the breath to flow through us. Feeling the emptying of the exhalation and the expansion of the inhalation. And as our hands feel the movement of the breath within us, our body feels the weight and the warmth of the hands, and that's settling, comforting, quieting. So I'd just like us to lie for another minute or two with this intention of gathering our awareness into the breathing. And if your mind starts to get a bit busy and wander, then whenever you realise that's happened, then just sort of quietly, calmly gather your attention back to the feeling of the breath beneath your hands. You don't need to try to block anything out. You can be aware of noises around you. You can be aware of thoughts that come in, but sort of just allowing that stuff to stay in the background, to flow in and out. And your attention is with the breathing. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl and just carry on lying, feeling the movement of your breath. And I'm going to ring it 3 times. So thank you very much. Do unmute yourselves if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, everyone.
Yes, you too. Thank you for joining me on this rather grey Monday morning. So
Thank you.
thank you, Sheila. So my kids talk about your cats a lot, Linda. So oh, I can't. You were muted still. Oh, still on mute.
Had to let them in as they were scratching.
It's so funny they want to come in.
Desperate.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was lovely.
Oh, well, thank you. Mary's made a cat toy, like your cat toy, but
Oh, lovely.
they're not quite as playful, being a bit older. But
Yeah.
That was lovely, Kara. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sheila, I'm glad you managed to get in. I think you tried to use the Friday link, didn't you?
Well, I couldn't find a link for today. That's why. So I thought, oh, maybe I could try an old one. But
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't have it. But
yeah, either I missed you off the email, or maybe it went to junk. I don't know. So.
yeah, I was racing around trying to find it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got there.
We got the win. So yes, well done. Your WhatsApping me is always a good idea. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye bye then, everyone. Happy week.
Yeah, happy week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.